All right.
Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to Open Wounds Podcast. Today I have a guest with me, Yuki. Is it Yuki-Yuki? Is that how you like it? Yeku-Yeku. Okay.
Yeah, just call me B.
B. Yes, that's how I know you, is B.
Mm-hmm.
I met B at the Vipassana meditation sit on Oahu that I just did and that I talked about on the podcast. And so I wanted to have you on to talk about why you love Vipassana so much that you've gone 9 times.
Yes. Well, thank you. Really appreciate you having me on. So am I supposed to look here or there?
You can look wherever you want.
Okay, so I'm going to kind of look here a little bit, and then I'll be talking to you as well. So, yes, as you said, I'm Yeku-Yeku Baker. I'm a retired Army veteran, and what led me to Vipassana was my own suffering. I was diagnosed with cancer at 38. I had an ovarian cyst and forced into a full hysterectomy.
Wow.
And that really was my wake-up call that, there were some things that were going in my life that just really needed to change. And especially getting so close to retirement, I was going through like a lot of transition. And that was one of the things that really pushed me to start healing. And one of my coworkers, thank her, because she was the one that just casually mentioned it. And then, of course, my squirrel mind started digging into it. And I'm like, I'm looking for something. And I'm always learning and trying to learn as much as I can. So I found Vipassana, and once the seeds of Dhamma are planted, it's just hard not to go back. So yeah, that was the start of my healing journey as well.
Wow. Yeah, I think because to me, you were there. You told me I had like basically a mental breakdown with the pain, and I like was crying, and she was very comforting, and so I was like, yes, obviously compared to boot camp.
Right.
Vipassana is probably like a cakewalk, right?
Yeah. Okay. So if we're gonna compare,
like you've had such experiences where I could see for you to be like, oh, this is nothing. I've been through so much shit that's sitting here and having to deal with whatever my mind is saying and my body is saying. I can deal with it, right? Like you had the capacity and the bandwidth to carry that load.
Oh, send me back to boot camp. No, heck no. Like the first sit, I was like, I want out. Like, get me out of here. I want to run away. And but when I commit to something, it was like, what did you come here for? Like, what was the point of you even starting this journey? We need you in this fight. And so for me, I'd go back to boot camp and do it all over again compared to and that's for a lot of people, like how hard it is to sit and face yourself.
Yeah.
When you you sit and you put a mirror in front of yourself and there's nothing but you, that mat, and your breath, there's nowhere to hide.
Yeah.
And that is probably the most terrifying thing that you can do as a human being is really face
all
yourself,
yeah.
all of it, the totality of every experience that you've had in that moment of like, this is it. Right now is the only thing that matters. So
yeah.
Vipassana gives you that space.
Yeah. It's funny because when I came back, my son's teacher was like, oh, what did you do? What meditation did you go to? And I was like, and she said, was it Vipassana? And I was like, yes. And she's like, oh my God. She's like, I can't believe you did that. And then she goes, I had this friend who was in prison and he came out and he reformed himself and he went to a Vipassana retreat. And he said that it was worse than prison. And I was like, oh my God.
Like, it's a self-imposed prison. Like you like the military is volunteer. Like okay, so you heard the saying, go to war, go to jail.
Yeah. I've heard that before.
Okay, you're self-imposing yourself in prison for 10 days. Like you're putting yourself on lockdown. You have no phones. There's no device. Like there's no outside contact with the world. So essentially, like all of your meals are being provided for you. All of your accommodations are taken care of. You have no worries other than listening for the gong and moving along and going to meditate. And essentially, you've locked yourself in for 10 days to commit to whatever it is you need to heal or work through.
Yeah, yeah. Like for me, I really did like the solitude and I liked the quiet. Like I was craving that reprieve from like the chaos of the world. And I really did like being able to sit and be with my thoughts. Like I enjoyed that part of it. Like, I think too, if I had brought, and I said this in the other episode that I did, if I had brought a back jack and I brought a stool and brought like 400 cushions, I probably could have like prevented my back from doing whatever my back did.
Right.
But
it's
so
not for the weak.
It's definitely physical. I think the other thing too that got me was it's, it is really, really hard work that you're doing to make yourself sit and follow your breath or scan your body and scan your body, because your brain wants to run off and, he tells jokes about that in videos. Yeah. And the monkey mind. But I think the other thing too, like you said, is like, especially if you're really, I don't want to say addicted, but kind of like on your phone all the time and taking calls and going to meetings and in the car, like it is really difficult and uncomfortable to just stop and downshift and be. Like you just sit and you be. I remember there was a girl in the grass and she was like building little things out of the twigs that had fallen out of the trees, because I feel like that's just our nature as humans to like do. We got to do something all the time. Yeah.
We're doers. And that's interesting that we kind of segued into this. Is that's how I came up with my name, Just Call Me B, is because so much time we spend is doing. And, also like there's a lot of history around my name, my birth name, that is very sacred and honorable to me and my ancestors and all the things. And so like my experience has been, not everyone carries the same regard. So if I make it very simple and say, just call me B. Yeah. It'll also remind people, just be better, be a better human. One of my slogans, be better. Yeah. And so much time just spent just doing. Vipassana forces you. You must account for all of the things. If you are serious about your liberation, about your healing, and really, really, truly finding happiness, that is the work. Yeah. And it's not in the physical. I think one of the biggest disservices that was ever done to humanity was when they came up with the saying is the truth is out there. No, the truth is not out there.
No, it's not.
The truth lies within.
Yeah, it's inside of you.
It's inside. And the work is to dig it up and dig it out. Yeah. And Vipassana, I feel like, when you did compare it to boot camp or the lessons that I learned from my military experience, that's why I think it drew me in, because of the regimen, because of the discipline, because of the necessity to, come on, soldier. Yeah. Lead by example, do the work of finding the happiness that you've been seeking. So,
yeah. So you retired from the military. You were in the Army?
Yes, I was in the Army for 22 years. 21 years, 11 months, and 9 days. So we know our times. If you're a veteran out there, you when you get that piece of paper, you remember it. Yeah. Yeah. So 22 years, and it's been coming up on a decade since I was released.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's something too I wanted to talk to you about, is like the veterans issues that we see happening in our communities and in our nation, is like, because of what is inherent in going to war and being detached from your community and your family, and like our brains are not meant to process taking lives and all these things that you experience. Like, I feel like veterans I'm gonna try not to like get on my soapbox and get mad, but like the government spends billions of dollars on war, and then the veterans get like the scraps. Like we're not taking care of our veterans, and they have like the things that we've put on them when they've gone into these scenarios. It's not fair, and we've kind of just like left them high and dry. And I know that you have a passion for helping veterans as well. So I don't know if you want to talk about like your work with veterans or,
Absolutely.
you know.
Well, that's wow, gosh, like I can feel like that passion that you have, and it is really close to my heart. The work that I'm working to do, like it's just everything is a process, and it's really easy to be angry and be frustrated and just sit there and not do anything. But the work of it is planting seeds. So the work I do really just involves planting seeds of hope, planting seeds of like faith over fear. Like I wear my work, I am my work, I be who I envision what the world would look like if they took and spent the time to actually do this work, right? So like when I think about like the veterans and the homelessness, the suicide is probably highest on my radar in terms of like my personal experience of pretty much just pulling myself out of the mud, and going down to just rock bottom and just taking my house down to the studs and really just rebuilding from just the foundation. And the base is literally base, breath, awareness, sensation, equanimity. It's the base. So I've built every single thing that I've done up until this point on that principle. Now the job we have and what we're doing here is spreading that seed of awareness, spreading the seed of hope. And yes, the problems are always going to be there.
Yeah.
It's always going to be an imperfect world. We need that darkness to kind of balance it out, but that's where we come in.
Right.
We do the light, we be the light, we become the light after like sitting in the darkness. So now, instead of just saying, hey, I can help you, now I can say, I can help you.
Yeah, it's an embodiment.
Because now I have come up and through all of that. And Vipassana, you sit in your shit. You sit in shit. That's why it hurts. It's painful. Yeah. Because like for years and years and years, you've been dredging this stuff around and your crap sack is full.
Yeah.
You go to Vipassana to empty your crap sack and to be nourished by the people that are in the same, we're all doing the same thing. We're all here for the same reason. You'd be a hypocrite to say that you have nothing. Why are you here then?
Yeah.
What are you seeking after? If you're not here to work, you're here to play. And serious workers, they come to do the serious work. Yeah. And you came and you planted that seed of Dhamma within you. Yeah. And now you're doing the work. This is the work.
Yeah.
So you just took your experience and everything and you said, now I'm going to run with that. Yeah. Now my anger, my righteous anger, now I'm going to be part of the solution. Yeah. So bravo to you. And thank you. Again, like me being here and us even having this conversation, it all started as a result of your pain.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And I think, that the Vipassana talks about the craving and the aversion and being able to basically become, a neutral observer of both of them, right? So that you're not constantly bouncing between running from your problems or numbing out your problems. And I think the other part of it too, like you said, is facing the darkness within us and that shadow work, because at least for me, when I was running from it and avoiding those parts of myself, that was way scarier than when I actually sat down and I looked at it and I'm like, oh, I'm not this. I'm not these things that I thought I was. That was somebody else telling me and putting that on me, society or whatever, right? Telling me that you're this, you're that. But once I really was able to face the fear of what horribleness I could be, I realized, oh, there's nothing here. Like, it's just like the monster under the bed. Like, you look and it's just a pile of clothes, right?
Exactly.
So,
yes.
Yeah. So I think that's the stepping through the fear to kind of sit with it. And, we, not just veterans, but everybody has that as an experience of life where it's like, we're afraid of parts of ourselves because we haven't looked at them and acknowledged them and integrated them. And so, I know that Vipassana is like a tool that you can use through the meditation practice of just like processing and processing and processing all the layers that come through.
Yeah. And you said the word, like you like hit a keyword monster, right?
Mm-hmm.
So often, like, we villainize ourselves or the monsters that we've had in our lives. If you really peel everything all the way back, it's just a child.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, even meeting you, like as I was acting as course manager for the course, and I had to like literally within myself say, I have a group of 4-year-olds.
Yeah.
Like my 4-year-old self and all of these 54-year-old women, like they are all here to figure it out.
Yeah.
How do I show up for them? Do I show up as the monster that used to show up for me?
Yeah.
That all of us are really accustomed to, that we became within ourselves?
Yeah.
Or do we show up as the goddess within us, the God within us, the higher beingness of us?
Yeah.
So, at the end of the day, we see that monster is just a pile of clothes.
Yeah.
But all the time, we've been running from it.
Yeah.
We've been hiding.
Yeah. We've been giving it eyeballs, little red
We've
eyeballs.
been giving it a story.
Yeah.
We've been giving it like a life of its own, and it's taking on its own shape. And then you turn around and look, and it's your own reflection.
Yeah, exactly.
And you've been hiding from it.
Yeah. I think that's true. Like the compassion to hold for people as they're going through this process and understanding like a lot of these maladaptive coping mechanisms that we see people have are because it's a wounded inner child aspect, right?
Yeah.
So I was talking to a friend about like how funny it is when language is taken away during the Vipassana course to see the behaviors that come out. And
the stories that we tell.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that person's named this. And I give everybody like funny little names. Yours was easy because you told us at the beginning B, and you had a little bumblebee on your shirt. So that stuck with me. But yeah, it's funny to see like, I think too, the stress of the Vipassana causes you to regress. At least for me, I felt like, okay, this is really pulling me back and kind of breaking me back down to where I was before. Like the childhood stuff will come up because you're like in a pressure cooker. Is it regression or is it something else?
Is it growth?
Yeah.
We think it's regression. Our little parts of us want us to say, oh, we're regressing. No, this is the best part of it. Like when all that crap comes, that's the best part. Like all of this years and all this time you've been hiding it from yourself. Now finally you're lifting up your skirt. You're saying, look, this is all the stuff we've been kind of like stuffing and shoving down. So when you're feeling like I'm regressing, I'm going backwards, that's the protective part of you saying, don't go forward. We don't want you to see everything in the closet we've been hiding. That is what that is. That's where the pain comes in. That's where the stories show up. That's where like all of the ickiness of who we be comes to the surface. And just, how you see like the floaters just kind of like on this, like that's us. Like we've got like all this poo around us and we're like, oh, I don't like it. The stench I don't like the stench.
Yeah.
And so our kid parts are like, I've been trying to tell you this whole time, but you weren't listening. Yeah. And so in Vipassana, you uncover all of it, and it feels horrible.
Yeah.
Like, ever had a cold. Mm-hmm. You feel really, really bad, and then all of a sudden, fever breaks, boop, you're off and going. You're like, oh, okay, I had to just get through that part ickiness. and pull it all up and out. And when you feel the regression, that is when you say, hallelujah, hallelujah. My child parts, I can hear them now. I hear you. Now it's not a matter of feeling around in the dark. Now there's a voice that now you're like,
yeah. Which ties into internal family systems, which I've talked a little bit about before on the podcast, is like the parts work. And it kind of is, connected to the shadow work, is when you start looking inside and you're forced to sit with these things, we may feel like compartmentalized or like almost like fractaled. I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, but it's basically like those parts of ourselves that were wounded in that space and time and become frozen, right? So if something, tragic, like let's say your parent died when you were 7, or, you had to move and leave all your friends and family when you were 4, like those little frozen parts of ourselves remain in there, kind of like causing a ruckus, and we just don't realize, that they haven't had the nurturing and the integration that they need and helping them. So do you want to talk a little bit, because I know you know a lot about internal family systems.
Wow. Okay, so we're taking it all the way in. Wow. So again, just to be clear, I am not a licensed therapist or a clinical psychologist or any of those things. So if you are in a place where you need help and you're feeling that life may not be worth living and all of your parts are screaming at you, like, please do seek professional help. But in terms of internal family system, my knowledge and my experience, I will tell you, you have those parts when you have an experience that's too much, too fast, too soon. Is the very definition of trauma, like a car accident, any kind of overwhelm to the nervous system that causes you to go into a fight, flight, freeze, or fawn pattern. So those are all coping mechanisms. And so once you get into that state, like you were talking about, that part kind of breaks off, and it actually becomes like its own identity, its own, it's just, every experience you have kind of feeds back and is drawn upon that one experience. So you have different parts that are doing the managing, you have different parts that are doing like the protecting, then you have those wounded parts that just are being protected. Those are the ones that hold the key to your liberation. So all these fighters and managers they're doing their parts, like the ones that show up for you and they're putting on your best face, and they're all what society expects you, But that wounded child is really sitting there like, oh my God, I just want someone to hear me. And so when you're getting into Vipassana and like healing modalities where you're now the managers and the protectors, now they are either like, all right, fine, we give up, we don't want to fight anymore. You can have that. And then they give you access to that wounded part. Now the wounded child is like, I have a voice. I'm going to let myself be known. And so that comes up when you get a chance to actually sit with yourself. And in that space, the energy around you and the fact that everyone is doing that same kind of work, it gives you permission in that now moment to say, oh, you're safe now. That experience, that was awful.
Which I think is a good point for Vipassana, because it is 10 days of you just sitting and doing this. So you don't have to, like with EMDR or with therapy, you may go to the session and then you may have to go back to work, or you have to go home and take care of your kids, or you got to go to the grocery store. So there's not a lot of time to integrate and process and kind of work through all the stuff that can come up from these things. So like when I did internal family systems work before, the very first couple sessions we were doing, my therapist was trying to get at one of the wounded inner child parts, and my protector, firefighter, whatever you want to call them, was blocking. And so we asked the protector parts, what do you want to happen with this inner child? And they're like, we want to kill it. We want to kill that part. And my therapist was like, no, we don't kill any of the parts. And so it's very much like, it's very heavy and it's very hard and it takes time to be able to sit and go in and do the work and then come back out and kind of metabolize it and then like process it again, you know, which
it's
is
like so therapy. That's exactly what you're saying. Therapy. Open it up. Close it. Go to therapy. Open it up. Close it.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing with therapy. You're talking about it. You're ruminating over it. You're having like all of the pontifications about it, and there's no solution that's happening. Vipassana, you breathe, you look at it, you have the awareness of it, you feel the sensation, you have equanimity, it poof, goes away, vanishes.
Yeah.
Now, not say like it doesn't go away from memory, you can still recall it, but when you think about the time where you were standing up in front of the class and you passed gas and you were so embarrassed, you were mortified. That was the 3rd grade.
Yeah.
But every time you go to give a speech, you're
back in that
go
3rd
back
grade.
and I'm in 3rd grade again. So now Vipassana, that thought comes up, you see it, and sometimes you even have a little joke about it, like, oh my God, I can't believe you were here this whole time.
Yeah.
Like you were here this whole time.
Yeah.
And you just needed me to hear you.
Mm-hmm.
And so finally, I've given you everything that you need. Oh, in that moment, everybody should just laugh that off, but I didn't know.
Yeah,
I didn't know like how to respond then.
Mm-hmm.
So once you uncovered that part, and you like can now look at it with balance, the equanimous mind, you know, you're able to just see it as something that happened, as an event, and it passes on. And then anytime you're in that experience again, if that feeling shows up, like, oh,
you can recognize it.
I remember that sensation. And now it's not like, now it's like, oh, or it's even like, I can just look at it. It's not a significant emotional event. So when it first happened, it was a significant emotional event. You're mortified. Maybe you, like, let's say, like, you peed your pants.
Right.
Okay, like, I peed my pants when I was, like, maybe in 2nd grade. And so, like, that would follow you. Like, oh, she's a smelly pee girl. Or,
or they might bully you.
And all the things. And so, like, now you always count on that experience to happen. So even for me, I'm 48 years old now. I don't look it.
I know, you don't.
But even my little girl, like, day 10 is very, very jarring for her because she's like, oh, no one's going to want to talk to me. No one's going to pick me. I'm the smelly pea girl. So the smelly pea girl comes back, or the little, in my case, I was just a little poor girl that grew up around a lot of influential people and people with money. So, oh, I'm the little poor girl and no one's going to like me. No one's going to pick me. So soothing that part, like, just talk to one person. Yeah. Just pick one person to talk to and then you'll be fine. And that is the challenge that kind of gets alleviated through the work that we do with Vipassana. Because now that there's that listening witness, now that witness can take that part and say, oh, okay, see, that was just back then. But right now,
we're adults now.
Right now, we're big. We're like, we can face this. And it's not a big and scary thing. Now it's just part of who we are, who we be. So,
well, and the other thing you talked to me about when we were at the Vipassana thing is we got a little bit into like EMDR because she was debriefing me and we just started connecting on all these things. And so I said, I liked EMDR. I said, but it was, again, you open the box, you stir it up, and then you shut it and you leave. And with EMDR, because you've got the bilateral, you've got the light, and you're thinking about the memory, you bring it up, it does neutralize it, but there's no, in traditional EMDR, at least my experience, there's no resolution. There's no happy ending, which I think we crave, especially as the inner child parts of us wants it to be a happy ending. So you were telling me you've created this model of the rescue. Is it rescue mission?
Yeah, it's called rescue mission.
So if you want to talk about that.
Okay. So Jeez, I've been healing for like the last 10 years, and like Vipassana is just like the highest on my list of things in terms of planting the seeds of Dhamma. But the work that I do involves what I like to call rescue missions, and it really is the reparenting tool that I use for all of my child parts. So let's just go back to the little poor girl in school. So let's just say that was me, and like there was an instance where we had a school trip and I didn't have enough money. And so like asking for the money is hard, getting the money is even harder.
Yeah.
So in the instance of the rescue mission internally, so this is all use your imagination, people. So this is like you have to have, if not a visual person, that's fine. It's just you just have to be able to imagine a different scenario for your part. So like in my case, so I would, in that instance, so I recall the memory and whatever it was that was the painful memory, I would reimagine it where, let's say, Big Me would show up and all of a sudden, oh, there's an angel donor that somehow got a scholarship.
Yeah.
And then, little me would get the scholarship because I would show up as me. Little me would get the scholarship and they'd be able to go on the trip. And oh, by the way, all of your college is taken care of for the rest of your life. Yeah. And so little me now has a different experience, whereas she was just frozen in that moment of, I don't have, I'm in lack, things are not well.
Yeah. And
then the rescuer, or whatever I imagine it to be, would just show up and provide that, whatever that solution is. And this is for any situation. Yeah. Like, let's say you have a child that's being abused and like, remember on Forrest Gump, she says she wants to go somewhere and go fly far, far away, and she becomes a little bird. So like in this scenario, like you become a bird and you would just magically just sprout wings and you just fly off. So basically the rescue mission is relearning and giving that child part that's exiled a new experience. Yeah. So in your waking moments, that energy that was like this before, now when that you hit that memory, it's now like, oh, it's either neutral or I have wings. And like that thing, yes, scary, horrible, challenging, it happened, but it is no longer
activating you.
It's no longer the trigger that causes all of the now moments to be impacted.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's also part of like the reparenting aspect. But it's just, for me, because of the fact I'm military, I just have to call it like rescue mission. It's a mission. Like, so we're going on these missions in our mind, and it also gives the human psyche a challenge rather than a problem. So now it's a mission. So it's not like you're going in thinking dreadfully. You're thinking of, oh, we're going in and we're coming up with we're solving a problem. So whatever that problem was, whatever that stuckness is, now has a resolution. Yeah. So you wrapped it up in a nice deep little bow. So whenever you reimagine that event, it's no longer like keeping you stuck, because that is essentially what's keeping a lot of us as adult beings stuck, because we're tethered by these events, like all of these events. So just imagine your life on this timeline. Yeah. All these significant events are just happening, popping. And it's just
dragging behind us.
And you're just like, like you've seen those just married.
It's like,
but just imagine like all your crap just, all these experiences just click. Now what you're doing is you're just individually, you're just cutting those cords. Yeah. Now, and instead of them just being like cosmic trash, now they're
like
transmuted into a experience that is resourceful. Yeah. And it's useful.
Yeah. I think that's so important, because especially when we're talking about healing complex trauma or other types of trauma, it's like you you need to feel like number one, we're reprogramming the neural pathway so that the next time that neural pathway is activated, like you said, it's not going to fire a fear or an anxiety or some kind of body response because we got our wings. Yeah. Or the big, the mother figure came in and gave us a scholarship or whatever it was, how we ever each individually choose to resolve it in our imagination. But then it doesn't become this thing that, like you said, is dragging behind us and constantly reactivating and constantly, because if you can do the work of sitting and being like, when I was in that meeting and my boss looked at me with that funny look, I felt something inside of me. What the fuck was that?
Yes.
Why did I feel that? Why did I get nauseous? Or like, you can get all these body reactions. Right. And so if you can sit there and kind of go, that reminded me of the time when I was 12 and this and this and this happened. So like, if you can put the puzzle pieces together, it's work and it takes time, but that's the base. Work. Yeah.
It's the base. Breath, awareness, sensation, equanimity. If anything comes out of this conversation, I want our viewers, listeners, or anyone that is interacting with this to remember the base. It's breath, awareness, the sensation of it, and then being equanimous. Yeah. All of those 4 components is part of the healing.
Yeah.
Like, you remember, I'm feeling really fucking, I don't like this, but you're aware that this is the sensation.
Yeah.
And then the equanimity comes in, it creates the balance.
Yeah.
Like, I know he's a jerk, but whatever.
Yeah.
It just reframes the whole experience. So now instead of your 12-year-old part popping up to the surface and driving the damn bus, you're still in control.
Yeah.
And you see your 12-year-old.
Yes.
You allow her to say, have a voice, kick and scream, do her business, and you say, and that's right.
Yeah.
And then she's like, okay, feel better now.
Yeah.
And then she's off on her way.
Yeah.
But you've acknowledged her. You've given her space to say, I'm here. Hear me roar.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't have to roar?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. What I was saying was I'm feeling very triggered right now, and what he's doing is making me feel this kind of, so that's what that sensation is.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you retraining your neurological pathways. When that scenario shows up, the sensation happens, I don't need to go off with my hair on fire.
Yeah.
Now I could just, okay, what 4-year-old part needs to be attended to now?
Yeah, yeah.
Because his 12-year-old showed up. Yeah. And you got your 12-year-old active.
Yeah,
that's true. So now they want to go in the parking lot. I'm going to beat you up after school.
I think that's such a good point, is recognizing when other people in your life, it takes a lot of like calm, grounded centeredness to be like, that lady flipped me off in traffic, or that guy cut in line, or that person did this. It's their own inner child acting a fool, like, and they're in that scenario. If you can hold compassion and empathy, I'm not saying you need to be a doormat, but to be like, this isn't even about me, that I, did something to them to make them flip me off or whatever. This is about their own inner child becoming activated, taking the wheel and driving them off course.
Yes. Think about it, right? When you think about like a bus, like the driver has these stops, and along the way they pick up different riders. So as you go along your way and you're driving down and you pull over and you pick up, little Candace over here. Hey, Candace, nice to meet you. And then I'm off on my way, and then I meet another partner and I pick them up. But Candace back here, Candace is in pain. Candace, like, her 12-year-old part is showing up and she's acting an ass. I can't keep going. So I got to give Candace a little, okay, Candace, what do you need?
Yeah.
Candace gets what she needs. We're off on our way. So this is same with every single energy that you interact with, because we're all energy, right? We're all frequency. We're light. We're all here to have this human experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And a lot of the times, like, we're conditioned and we're programmed and we're raised into these roles, if you will, and our parts have like a little bit of like crisscross in the wiring, you know? So what the work that we do in terms of healing is uncrossing those wires and untying those knots and giving that space, one, to breathe, but two, to process, to integrate, and to become whole again. Like the whole point of us being here is just to learn whatever that lesson is.
Yeah.
What did that 12-year-old need to learn in that moment from that experience?
Yeah.
We've all made contracts to have an experience. Like you and I, in some form in the ethers, said, hey, when you come down and you're in a whole lot of pain during Vipassana, I'm going to be there.
Yeah.
And I'm going to help you out. And I'm going to show you that there's another way how to do things. And you advocating for yourself and speaking up and saying, this shit hurts.
Yeah.
Not a must for me. And saying, I'm not quitting. I am actually winning by holding myself accountable and saying, my parts have had enough. This is where I need to be. And this is where I get off. So this is where I make my exit, right?
Yeah.
So all of us are just here kind of like just sorting through things. And it just depends what parts you allow to show up.
Yeah.
And when they do show up, how are you receiving them within yourself? Like, it was really interesting before. I don't know if you want me to share this.
Oh, no, that's
the
fine.
whole bitchy thing.
Yeah.
You shared with me earlier how you're talking about why am I keeping encountering people that are bitchy and snippy or whatever, and mention like, oh, well, how are you treating yourself?
Yeah.
Every individual that you encounter is a reflection of how you're treating yourself. Like, you showed up into my world to show me I need to rest. I need to give myself a break.
Yeah.
I need to stop like beating myself with a hammer and stabbing I need to say, like, you gave me that. Like, that was like, every single person, like, there's a lock and there's a key.
Yeah.
I've got things that are going to unlock and activate parts of you.
Yeah.
You've got keys that are going to activate and unlock parts of me. And that's what every single individual here on the planet, we're all unlocking each other so we can get out of the prison called this meat suit. Like, this is the prison.
Oh, yeah.
This is the prison, but it's also a sacred space.
Yeah.
It depends how you want to look at it.
Yeah.
How do you want it to be? Do you want this vessel to be your prison, or do you want it to be your vehicle?
Yeah. It's and how you, and I think too, it's like, once you can get it, if you are feeling right now like that this is a prison, it's probably because there's things that you are avoiding, like working through or looking at or acknowledging. Like, especially when I was feeling like this was a prison, it's because I had no boundaries. I had no self-worth. I wasn't taking care of my own needs. I wasn't, standing up for myself.
Putting yourself first.
I wasn't putting myself first. There was a lot of things, and a lot of this is cultural programming, and a lot of this is just American society. But yeah, I think if you can transform it to where you feel like this is a vessel, this is a vehicle that I get to utilize in this life to do something amazing with, that's, it's like a form of taking your power back, and not constantly being like, well, it's because this person was shitty to me and I had this horrible childhood, or I had this and that and the other. It's like figuring out how, yes, those things happen to us and they suck, but we are the only ones who can take a step out of that, right? And to take the power back and to get us where we want to go.
Yep, and that's exactly what Vipassana teaches us. Like, I love Winka. Winka is the teacher that just continued on the integrity and the practice of Vipassana in its purest form. God bless him for continuing to do this work, because when I tell you the space that it creates just for these kind of moments and these kind of interactions, it becomes very apparent that the world is in need of this kind of like exposure.
Yeah.
Right? So instead of us sitting on the couch on the sideline, we become the number one player and participant and actively working, because he says it. We're the only one that can liberate ourselves. Like, I can show you the path. I can show you how I made it where I made it to. But the one that's going to walk on the path is going to be you.
Yeah.
Like, when you have children, you want the best for them. You hope that they will, follow in the line of your legacy or create one of their own.
Yeah.
In the end, they have to take the steps. They must take, like, I can only show you the path.
Yeah.
And so this work that we're doing and like the spaces that we're creating, like, I'm very grateful that you picked up that torch and you're just like, all right, I'm going to run with this thing as far as I can take it. And your voice is just going to spread far and wide. So we just have this innate ability as a community to take one spark and light up the whole grid.
Yeah.
And that's what we're here to do.
Yeah, I agree. Well, on that note, do you want to share with everybody, because you do coaching? Yes.
I am a coaching. I'm a healing facilitator. I do small group work. I specifically amplify and magnify the voices of those who are struggling to find their way. I am the light. I am the beacon, and that's why I am a bee. I have work that's coming forward as an author, writer. So keep a lookout for I'm going to be having a new podcast.
Oh, cool.
It's not a podcast, it's a momcast. I would like to have a clear distinction because it's so funny, as I was coming here on the island, I had an inclination to pull over on the side of the road, and there's this beautiful being that was there. She just had her head, she looked like G.I. Jane. So if you know anything, like, she was just radiant. She was beautiful. And something told me just to pull over and just have an experience. And crossing paths was like, you're the birthing goddess. Like, you help people to birth themselves anew.
It's so funny because when we were at the retreat, I was like, are you a doula? Because it felt like I was at like my most vulnerable and weakest point, and she was just like, you can do it. You're going to be okay. And I was like, you give like doula vibes, like you're just birthing, but it's a spiritual birthing. It's like an awakening of the self, you know?
Absolutely. And so, like, I don't know how to say, I'm a birthing goddess, so I say I facilitate healing for individuals in small groups, and I just help people with their confidence and these kinds of interactions and building experiences. So my next project is Vision for Vets.
Cool.
And it's I'm a visioneer. I'm an Imagineer. That's what I am. I call myself an Imagineer. So I imagine things and engineering, put that together. But I create vision boards.
Cool.
And so, like, I don't know if anyone knows about art therapy.
Yes.
The vision boards that I've created is a boardroom experience, is what I like to call it. And I take clients, groups, retreats, hosts through experiences, guided experiences using vision boards. Nice. And having a visual representation, sometimes it comes out like it's just a purge, and like, these are the things that I need to get out. Other things are like, oh, these are the things I'm aspiring to do and I'm inspired by. So the vision boards are just for that impact, just to see what is possible to be created. So that's the work that we're doing, and it's just a joy. Like, it's not. I can't even say it's work anymore. Yeah. Now it's just
your passion.
It's just creating experiences, and really, everything has to be done experientially. Yeah. I can tell you that the fire is hot, and I can explain that the fire, and I can give you the science, but until you get burned by that fire, you're not going to know. And sometimes it takes people to just burn themselves.
Yeah.
But we're the healing salve
Yeah.
that, makes it feel better.
Yeah. So where can everybody reach out to you if they want to work with you, or they want to read your books, or they want to listen to your Momcast?
Well, Momcast, that's popping out in the spring. Everything is popping in the spring. You can find me at the Real yybaker on Instagram and on Facebook, Tea Time with B. So
okay,
there it is.
Well, thank you for coming. I'm so excited to see everything that you birth into this world in the next year.
Yes.
It's going to be exciting.
Yes.
I know the astrology is saying like that we're moving into like an Aries, like fire revolution phase.
Fire is passion.
So passion. We're gonna birth new change globally, like for humanity. So I'm excited to see.
I am too. Oh my gosh! Thank you so much for having me and sharing this time and space, everyone that's watching. I just so appreciate the work that you and I are doing, and we are birthing new seedlings.
Yeah.
So anyone that has listened to this and has had some benefit, hopefully something good came of it. So be good, because there's no good without God.
All right. Well, thank you.